no, it's Friday the 13th, and I'm headed to Baltimore. My lovely wife, Mary Mack, is driving me to the Jacksonville airport, where I will be flying from there to Charlotte and then to Baltimore. Jeff and I are going to do a little bit of work Saturday and Sunday on the boat, and then Monday the weather looks promising, so I will probably head out down the Chesapeake Bay and out into the ocean. The plan is to come in at Oregon Inlet and travel down the Pamlico Sound, down the Neuse River to Oriental to Sailcraft Services, where I will have the boat hauled out and do a bottom job on it. Interestingly enough, in the early 2000s, I actually worked at Sailcraft for a couple of summers. It has since been sold, so Alan Arnfest doesn't own it anymore. But at least one person is still there that was there when I was working, so it will be entertaining to see him again. So it's a beautiful day in North Carolina. You can see through the skylight of the car, the Carolina blue sky. And there's a joke here in North Carolina that God's a Tar Heel fan because the sky is Carolina blue. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. I'll keep you updated as things happen.
This is the story of a boy who in his teens started selling sunfish. In his 30s, he sailed with a friend on his Catalina 27. In his 40s, he bought a Hobie 16, which he sailed every year at the beach for a week. Also in his 40s, he bought a Catalina 27, followed by a Morgan Out Island 41. He sailed the Morgan Out Island for more than 16,000 miles until his 60s when he sold it. He then bought a Hobie 21 SE, which kept him happy for a while, but then he bought a Beneteau 50.4, which he started sailing. And he's sailing it by himself, so sailing solo at 70 is me, David Fansler. Only now I'm 72.
Well, as you can see behind me, it's a beautiful day on the Chesapeake, albeit a little bit cool. The wind is blowing about 12 knots at the moment. I'm just a few miles from the Annapolis Bridge, entering Annapolis. Run into a bit of a problem in that my transmission is slipping big a time. And so I am going to dive into Annapolis and contacted a couple of transmission places and see what they can see and if they can figure out something. So anyway, other than that, I left Sunday afternoon about 4 o'clock, went about a mile and got stuck. Was able to pull myself off the mud bank after a bit of a tussle, but I made it. So that was an interesting start to the trip. I just wasn't paying close enough attention. I was trying to get my dashboard lined up on the OpenCPN navigation software, which continues to run like a charm. It was a little cool sleeping last night with no heat, and it was rocky, so but I made it. So anyway, that's the latest at the moment. I will update you as I know more.
As you can tell from all the sailboat mast, I've entered Annapolis. I've made arrangements with a boatyard to take a look at my transmission to see what they can do. In front of me was this Beneteau sitting up on the hard that had the neatest feature. It had a bow thruster that folded down out of the hull and then went back up in the hull when you weren't using it. Talking about sleek. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do anything about my transmission without hauling the boat, and they couldn't do that. This was a lighthouse that I passed by on the way.
So my attempt to leave the area and sailed down Chesapeake Bay, failed miserably. The wind, it turned out, was coming straight up the bay, and I couldn't get enough angle on it to be able to even tack, or not tack, but just close haul down the bay. So I bought in the sails and started motoring down the Chesapeake. Then Mary called and we talked for a few minutes, and when she hung up, I went back and looked at the chart plotter, and I was 1.5 miles north of the Potomac River. I had been going backwards. Disgusting. So I am currently headed back to the Potomac, to my little hole where I've been since Tuesday, and I ain't going to move until Saturday when they say the wind is going to be good and in the right direction. Not doing this again. So there's an update. Take it. Well, it's Friday afternoon, and it is raining to beat the band. I'm back out on the water because about midnight, the wind is supposed to start coming from the south at a pretty good brisk rate. So I'm getting a head start on it. It's coming from the west right now at 5 knots, which isn't a whole lot, but I'm motor sailing along, making 5 knots. And so after midnight, it should pick up and I should blaze on down the Chesapeake Bay. So we'll see how that goes. Not a lot else to report at this point other than, hey, guess what? It's raining. So here is a view of what I can see. Not much. But I've got the radar running. Well, I don't have the radar running at the moment, but I got AIS running. And you see the green triangles, those are other ships. And the red ship, that's me, going by a green buoy. So anyway, later. I managed to get some multicolored LEDs up in the cockpit. This is with a red color for night vision. Speaking of night, the moon was coming up in front of me. It was quite beautiful. And another shot of the sunset. Just about 2 o'clock in the morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, the forecast came true. The wind is blowing between 15 and 20, gusting up to 25 knots. And it's a favorable direction. I'm close hauled, as you can see from the gauge in the upper right hand corner. The wind is about 30 degrees off the nose, which is very close hauled, and I'm doing about 6 knots at the moment. Still moving down the Chesapeake Bay very nicely, can't complain at all. It's going well. So that's about it. I'm catnapping when I can and getting a little bit of sleep. But it's a very, very smooth ride at the moment. The boat is not bouncing up and down at all. It's heeled over, but it's at a constant angle. So it's quite a ride. It's very enjoyable, very pleasant. No rain right now. In fact, the stars have come out. So there's your update on Saturday morning at 2 a.m. There we go, 30 knots. Of course, the wind history over here is only, well, no, it's saying 31 knots is what it's hit here recently. I'm sure there must be a medium craft warning out today. Well, after 2 days of non-stop hard sailing, I anchored off the coast of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina last night and slept in my bed, so that was good. We're about 18 miles from Oregon Inlet, where we'll be heading into the Pamlico Sound, and then across the Pamlico Sound down the Neuse to Oriental, North Carolina, where I will have the boat hauled out. So you're looking at the coast of Kitty Hawk in that area right now. So that's the update. Got up at 5 a.m. this morning. Need to be down to there about 8 a.m. to reach the low tide. Just to make sure there's enough room to go under the bridge. The bridge is 70 feet and I'm 68 and a little over. And high tide raises it about 2.5 feet. So I don't want to risk touching the bridge. So that's this morning's update. More as we approach the bridge.
This is the Bodie Island Lighthouse, standing all by itself, just north of the bridge. This is a really isolated house next to the bridge, close to Rodanthe. As I was threading the channel to the Mark Bass Knight Bridge, about 100 yards away, I ran out of fuel in the fuel tank I was using. So I whipped out the Genoa right quick, ran downstairs, switched fuel tanks, and came back up. About 100 feet from the bridge, I finally got the engine started and slowed myself down a little bit so that if I did touch the bridge, it wouldn't be quite as devastating. It looked like it missed it by a gnat's whisker, and that was it.
So I made it to Oriental. This is Oriental's harbor and the dinghy dock for people that are anchored out. Unfortunately, Sailcraft wouldn't let me do my own work, so I chose to not stay and left Oriental after a day or so. This is going up the Neuse River, or not the Neuse River, the Pamlico River. This is a barge from the phosphate plant. And here's the phosphate plant at sunset. And as I continue on up the river, another view at sunset. I got to Little Washington about 2 o'clock or so in the morning and docked up. And so this is what the boat looks like sitting there. All in all, it was an enjoyable trip. A little frustrating due to the amount of time that I had to wait for the wind to turn, but that's what sailing's all about. Riding with the wind and not using your motor and going with nature. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Sailing Solo. If you did, hit the like button, or better yet, hit the subscribe button. The next episode is really exciting and really depressing. I hope you'll stick around and come back and check it out when I get it up. Until then, this is David Fansler saying so long and clear skies.